Kamal Santamaria. This is Counting the Cost on Al Jazeera, our weekly look at the world of business and finance. Coming up, the economics, the politics of climate change.
We seek sweeping but necessary change in the midst of a global recession, where every nation's most immediate priority is reviving their economy and putting their people back to work.
Out of the red and into the green, can developed nations afford to become a little bit more environmentally friendly? Also, hungering for more, we look at the high price of aid cuts. And a hope-filled Germany, will the economic recovery so far be enough to win the vote? So we're taking a big look at climate change this week. Always an issue of conscience, but increasingly an issue of business and finance. Because for companies and for countries, it looks good to go green. Yes, it'll probably help save the planet too, but don't underestimate how important perception is in today's marketplace. The question is, who's actually willing to fork out the big money to go green and address climate change? And is a global green economy actually a sustainable thing? Well, the United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon was pressing that issue during the week, with world leaders converging on New York for the annual General Assembly. Secretary Ban hosted the UN's summit on climate change.
A deal needs to be backed by money and means to delivery. Without proper financing, the solutions we discuss are empty.
We're going to look more at the issue of green economies soon, but first, the actual problem that needs addressing, climate change. Our case study is a place near the bottom of the world where the ocean's bounty simply isn't as rich as it once was due to rising sea temperatures. Our correspondent Tony Bertley travelled to Tasmania in the remote southeastern corner of Australia.
Moody and magnificent Tasmania. It has a DNA trail which stretches back to Antarctica and 200 million years. Here, nature is awesome and humbling.
There are 5 species of cormorants in Australia. These are the rarest. These are the only true coastal cormorants, and they're only really found nesting here in Tassie.
Eco-tours are a speciality of this Australian island, where sightseers are given a unique glimpse into how our planet evolved in the past, but a stark warning about where it's heading in the future.
I've seen small changes in what's happening in the environment, and I feel like that it's a fair chance that I'll be a part of a generation of people that will be the last to see and experience what some aspects of this coastline has to offer.
And for good reason. There is nothing between Tasmania and the cold waters of the South Pole.
The sea temperature around Tasmania has risen by about 3 degrees in the last 30 years, which doesn't sound very much, but it's enough to have seriously affected a change in the marine ecosystem here. And with temperatures predicted to rise further, it poses serious questions about what the future holds.
Tasmania is renowned for its nature and richness of marine life, home to a variety of species including seals, dolphins and whales. But nature and man are facing serious challenges. At the Sunrise Fisheries near St Helens in the northeast of the island, they have processed lobsters for more than 20 years, and the industry is facing one of those challenges. Tasmania is one of the biggest producers of crayfish and the sought-after abalone fish. It's a business worth more than $70 million a year, but catches are decreasing dramatically.
Everybody that I talk to is complaining about the fact that the price of the fish is too high.
Thousands of fishermen have invested up to $500,000 each for licenses and boats to fish lobster. Reduced catches means the price has shot up, too expensive for locals, only affordable for rich markets like Japan. And this is the reason: the long-spined sea urchin brought here by the warmer currents. It feeds on the rich kelp beds at the bottom of the ocean, which provides the nutrients for the marine life and prey for lobsters.
Giant urchin, it's having a devastating effect in some areas within the state, and it certainly devastated a large area of New South Wales on its way down here. And it's over a period of years, as the current comes down further and further, these things keep coming down with it.
Tasmania is on the front line of climate change and is feeling the effect more than most. It's experiencing a wide range of weather fronts, from droughts to record rainfall. Its treasure and livelihood is its nature, and people are all too well aware of what they can lose. That process is starting. The question is how to stop it. Here, like the rest of the world, they are still grappling with the answer to that question. Tony Bertley, Al Jazeera, Tasmania, Australia.
So you see there, don't you? Climate change in Tasmania, it equals money lost, which brings us back to this central issue. Who's going to spend the money to secure that green economic future? Well, actually, Tasmania is spending the money. 70 to 80% of the state's energy use is from renewable hydroelectricity. They're also looking at wave and tidal power generation and a proposal to double wind power generation. But ultimately, it is the big boys, the big polluters, who will make the big difference. Have a look at these numbers. These are the top 3 carbon dioxide emitters, and China's rapid growth has made it number 1. It now accounts for 24% of global emissions, just above the US on 22%, the EU as a whole 12%. And the picture doesn't get much better for China. By 2030, it's expected to add on another 5%, up to 29%. The US looking at around a fifth of global emissions, the EU down to 8%. But there is another story to be told here, the long-term one, which considers the biggest offenders now and in the past. Have a look at this. It's a 150-year stretch we're looking at, 1850 to the year 2000, during which China, top of the list now, is responsible for just 7% of emissions already in the air. That is because countries in the West have been spewing out greenhouse gases for a much longer time. Over that same period, look at that, the US 30% of emissions, in the EU 27%. So those are the villains, if you like. On the flip side, the greenest countries in the world stack up like this. This is from Yale University's Environmental Performance Index. Switzerland tops the list, followed by 3 Nordic nations, Sweden, Norway, Finland, and in 5th is Costa Rica. Well, we're going to look more now at the costs of going green, and joining us is Helen Mountford, an environmental economist at the OECD, the Organisation of Economic Cooperation and Development. Helen, thank you for your time. Green economies, they're a great idea, they're a very noble idea, it's all for the right reason. Are they truly sustainable, in your opinion?
Yes, they are. And in fact, I think anything else is unsustainable. We do need to continue with economic growth. We need to enhance economic growth, but we need to do so in a way that is sustainable environmentally. If we don't, the costs and the consequences of inaction are enormous. Okay, we see this with climate change. We see this with water scarcity.
Sorry, I interrupt you there. I want to give you like a little progression, if you like. If we say, OK, investing in green technology, it is an expensive thing to do. Therefore, production costs can rise. Therefore, the end price of products can rise. There's a lot of money being spent here, and now is not the time when people are really looking to spend a lot of money.
Well, we're already seeing that people are investing constantly in research and development. They're investing in new technologies. And what we're looking at is trying to ensure that the new technologies, the direction that they're going, are ways which are environmentally sustainable. So instead of investing in new technologies which will be heavily polluting or emissions intense, we're trying to invest in ones which will help to solve environmental problems while also leading to more efficient production.
What about the other P word? You said production there. The P word I'm talking about is profit. If a company or a country has got to choose between going green and being environmentally friendly or turning a profit, they're going to choose profit, surely, aren't they?
No. Well, what we absolutely see is that you can do both. You can be profitable and also green, and it's essential that we go that way. What businesses are asking us for in terms of clear directions are clear policy signals in order that they can invest in the right directions. They need that clear policy framework. And once they can do that, they're able to invest, they're able to become front runners on new technologies, low carbon technologies, green technologies, and help to exploit the new markets that these are creating. But if they don't have a clear policy framework in which to act, then they're not able to do that.
Does it need to be the same for everyone? I'm talking more countries here rather than companies. There are some countries who'd say, we haven't been polluting as long as other countries have, we haven't polluted as much, why should we have to make the same cuts that others do?
Right. Well, absolutely. One of the things that we see with OECD countries and developed countries generally is that they recognize that they have been the major polluters in terms of climate change, for example, in the past, and they take their responsibility to take the lead in acting on climate change very seriously. At the same time, when you're looking forward, the majority of new emissions are going to come in the future from developing and emerging economies. So it's important both to take the lead from developed countries, but to have other countries participating. And I might add on this, developed countries also recognize their responsibility to help developing countries and help emerging economies to tackle climate change, including both through providing financing and to ensure the technology that's available is deployed and widely available and accessible.
In the end, then, are we looking at, and I don't want to get too dramatic here, but are we looking at an entire revolution here? You had an industrial revolution in the 18th and 19th centuries which changed everything up until this point. Is it that big, an entire green revolution the world over, to actually change people's entire thinking?
I think it is. I think we're really looking at a paradigm shift. It's not a question anymore of green versus growth. It's how to do both together. How do we do economic growth and make sure it's environmentally sustainable?
Helen Mount from the OECD, many thanks for your time. After the break here on Counting the Cost, bearing the brunt in Bangladesh, a look at how in times of recession the funds are running dry for the hungry. We're back in a moment.